but we don't think it's live streaming.
Oh, I can see the recording button.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we'll just post the recording after we're done.
So are we ready to go then, Patrick?
Yep.
Okay, well then we'll get going. Call the meeting to order. The roll call shows that we have Councilor Moody, Councilor Swearingen, Councilor Schulte, Councilor Kennedy. We have Finance Director Kim Dunsmore. We have City Administrator Mike Roth, and we have Communications Director Patrick Knight. So that is who is all on this call as of right now. So that would be our roll call. Are we expecting more people, Mike?
Elena and Mitch Dorr will join us when we're ready for them.
Boy, we're getting real close. Okay, so now is the time for open forum. Did anyone have any open forum messages that they would like to convey to the council at this point? Anybody? Bueller? All right. Hearing none, we'll close the open forum and we will move on to the consent agenda. Consent agenda has typical 3 things. This meeting's agenda, the previous meeting minutes, and then the payment of our bills for the past couple weeks. So unless there's something that someone would like to pull for consideration, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I will make that motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, we got a motion by Councilor Swearingen. We have a second.
I'll second it.
Second by Councilor Moody. We'll go to further discussion. Any discussion? Hearing none. Go to a vote. Councilor Moody, your vote.
Aye.
Councilor Swearingen, your vote.
Aye.
Councilor Schulte, your vote.
Aye.
Councilor Kennedy, your vote.
Aye.
And my vote is an aye as well. The ayes have it. Consent agenda passes. So then we will move on to the graduation parade. So I think that now is the time to bring Mitch on. Is that correct?
Yeah, he's got the message. He should join shortly.
Okay, cool. So while we're waiting for Mitch to join, you all saw in the packet what they're looking to do. They're talking about May 30th, starting at 4:30, going down from the school, down First Avenue East to 3rd Street, all the way down to 8th, down to 61, down to Wisconsin Street, and to the Point, is what they're talking about doing. And it sounds like they've gotten agreements from the Sheriff's Department already. Wondering, as soon as Mitch comes on, then we'll be able to ask him any questions that we might have about that happening. Before he jumps on, Mike, I have a question about the application or this letter that Mitch put in. Usually, don't we do for parades and street use? Don't we have like an actual application that they need to do, or is this operating in lieu of that?
It includes the information that we would want in lieu of that. When I talked to Mitch about it, I advised him we probably wouldn't even ask for a permit for the parade because it's just some cars driving on the street. We're not closing the street.
Gotcha.
So, but they do want us to block off the parking lot, and that's something that we would have to actually take action on. So, I thought maybe this would be something that you'd like to just hear about because it's cool.
I think it's super cool. So Patrick, you got any idea when he'll come on?
He's supposed to join up right away. I'm going to call him.
Technical difficulties. Kelly, go ahead.
Do we have the ability then to block off Postcard Point and make sure, people are out of there? Do we have enough stuff to block it off? And people, I'm assuming with the Sheriff's Department, maybe go ask folks to move off?
We do. We've blocked it off for other events. So it's just getting down there early enough and chasing out the folks that are already there. And given the circumstances, I'm not sure how much traffic to even expect to be down there. I don't think it's your typical late May weekend. So
He didn't answer, so I'm not sure. Should we jump to Elena? She's ready.
If we need a motion, unless, I mean, we can have discussion, but I would move that we approve the closing of Coast Guard Point on that day for the parade.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Does anybody else have any further discussion?
My only thought is, doesn't this just formalize what's already happened every year after graduation anyway?
Yeah, it kind of does, doesn't it?
Did you do that, Kelly?
Yeah, that's kind of about right.
Down, out to the point?
Actually, after I graduated, I hopped in a car and went to Minneapolis to participate in the state track meet.
Oh, nice.
One of
Yeah.
those.
Yeah, I left at 10 o'clock at night to get to Minneapolis by 3 in the morning.
Wow, that's not a good idea.
Maybe Craig could answer if he did that.
So does anybody have any questions about logistics or any concerns about the parade and the closing of Coast Guard Point or the route that they've identified?
No.
Well, in that case, then we'll just jump to the vote on it. So, Councilor Moody, what's your vote?
Aye.
Councilor Swearingen, what's your vote?
Aye.
Councilor Schulte, what's your vote? There's Mitch. Councilor Kennedy, what's your vote?
Aye.
And my vote is an aye. Hey, Mitch, we just passed your thing, so thanks for showing up.
A preventing argument.
Hey,
of ours.
I appreciate that. Sorry I was late. I was thinking I was getting another weird phone call from, some credit card dealer. So
No, just Patrick.
Yeah, he's like that.
no, I appreciate that. I've just been floored by the community support in a lot of facets. We now have somebody that's volunteering the whole filming of this with the drone, and lots of people helping the school out. I've met with our public health coordinator, and we've walked through the plan, and she's good with it, and so feel really good about our plan. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks for putting it together. If you need anything else from us, let us know. Feel really, I personally have some really strong feelings about that group of kids. It's a good group of kids, so I'm glad to help out.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I think we're done with you. So now you're here, you can just drop out.
Thanks, Mitch.
We'll move on.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, so now we'll move on to Elena. So this is to do with the 8th Avenue stormwater pond and conveyance system. And is she on? Because there's some technical stuff that I want to make sure that she has an opportunity to. There she is. Hi. Oh, you're muted.
Just gotta unmute your mic, otherwise we're
There she is. Now you're good.
I'm unmuted.
No. So we just introduced it, just said this had to do with the 8th Avenue stormwater pond and stormwater conveyance system, doing improvements to that. So why don't you give us a description of what those improvements are and what the project all includes, what the expectations are for different partners, and we can go from there.
So we won $1 million. I'm just kidding.
You always start like that every time.
Just gonna start with that. No, actually, we're doing pretty good. But what I'm gonna do is attempt to share my screen so I can just quickly show, because it will help me to keep my memory going here at this time. And so, Patrick? We didn't get a chance to connect earlier. Is there an easy way to do this?
Yes, you just press move your mouse so you see the menu on the screen, and then you press present now in the lower right-hand corner.
Whoops. And my internet is super jumpy tonight. Can you guys see that? Because I cannot see anybody.
Not yet.
Okay. If it doesn't work, I'm just going to talk a lot and not worry about it. Okay, share. And it might not work.
You might have to share a portion of your screen. instead of entire screen.
It is not, okay. Feel like we're on a funny thing window. See if that will work.
There we go.
Did this work?
Yep.
Okay, super. So I know all of you, but just as a reminder, thank you for having me. And I'm Elena Hansel with the Cook County Soil and Water Conservation District. And so this is the 8th Avenue project. We were approached about a year and a half ago by Mike, and he said, hey, Highway 61 is going to be probably impacting this area. It just needs some work. And within that same time, Dave Tusteg also contacted us and said, hey, is there anything you guys can do to help us with this? It's just kind of a mess. Here it looks not messy, but it's still kind of a mess. So just a quick overview of the area. This is the map. The dark blue lines are the main drainage areas. The smaller blue lines are smaller drainage areas. If you were to zoom out from this, which I'm not going to do, but if you were, the drainage goes all the way up to 5th Avenue, so all the way up to County Road 7 and flows all the way down into this 8th Avenue pond, which is right in through here. So the project area is looking at redesigning some of this area here and looking at trying to get more storage and more treatment for the water because there's not a lot then. It goes in through here and it floods this area, I know, and talking to Dave too, on larger rainfall. So trying to help mitigate some of that is some of the goals of fixing this problem up and through here. So project steps, and then we can go through questions. So our project steps right now are to do some surveys and get a couple designs figured out. We were hoping to do some flow and looking at how much water is actually going into this pond and into this system. But due to the COVID, we missed that opportunity this spring. So we're going to do it next year. And our engineers had suggested that we just put it back and we'll just adjust the plans next year as necessary. So we're going to do that so we can get a better view and opportunity to understand how much water is going into that. Then continue to do meetings and discussions with city staff. And we need to enter into an agreement once we get to the point where everybody's happy and comfortable with doing the work. Capture the flow data, which we're going to do in the spring. Finalize a design in the spring of 2021. And then we'd like to complete the project next summer. Our goal is also to secure the funding then throughout the project steps. For those who haven't worked with the SWCD, this is kind of how we operate. We just write a lot of grants. That's how we're basically funded. So we kind of just work in this world. So we just keep moving forward and hope that things fall in place, which often they do. So these are our steps. The main goals are to get some more storage capacity and then also to get some treatment. And our engineers are working with the PC swim model right now and using all that data to help understand this area. So the estimated costs are in our estimated budget and is the construction's estimated about $175,000. Design is at 10, staff time is at 45,674, and then our total cost is around $230,675. We don't know if there'll be impacts again due to the COVID, if this will fluctuate, but we're hopeful that this is as close as we can get it. So currently at funding, we have $10,000 secured, which we're using right now to do the design. And that expires at the end of December. It's a Minnesota Lake Superior Coastal Grant. It's normally a 6-week grant, but due to the current pandemic, we were able to get that extended. So that's good news. We also have money secured from the implementation funding. That $90,000 was originally supposed to go towards other projects related to stormwater, but that's not happening. So we're able to move that money towards this project. And then we have a few other applications and requests, well, at least one for sure, that's being reviewed right now, and that will secure the amount of money. With additional, we're lucky that that funding source, if it goes through, has a little bit of extra funding. So if the cost goes up, we are able to have funding to do the whole project. So that is what I have, and that's kind of our overview, my overview of the project. So that's our goals.
Elena, when you talk about increased storage, what does that look like?
Yeah, so storage, and maybe increase isn't right, but maybe to have it so it actually is functioning better. Right now, the water shoots through the west side. There's a big culvert there. It shoots to the west side and kind of through another one, but it shoots straight through. And then it's not being stored. I mean, some of it's getting stored, but there's a majority that goes through. The culvert on the outlet of that pond is undersized. I know that they're having problems with it behind the building eroding. So it's actually having it settle down, like the water storage there. And so the sediment can settle, and then it will maybe, what the engineer we have is new, so he hasn't had a chance to get up to the site. So we haven't done the designs, but it's just a matter of having areas of storage of water. So it's not increasing it and making it larger than it already is, because it's already actually oversized, but it's making it more efficient for that storage, and making it treat the water. So it just is redoing that area so it functions the way it should. Does that help, or do I talk in a circle?
No, that helps. It probably would look a little cleaner than it
Yes.
does now.
For sure. Yeah, Dave, when we met with him on site and when we talked to him, you know, he said one of his concerns is that Thorson just comes in kind of whenever and just cleans it out, and it just gets muckier and muckier, and it just doesn't look nice. So yeah, one of the goals is to have a lot of natural vegetation, plants, and just make it look better, but also to function. And that's, I know, conversations Mike and I have had too. That's one of our goals.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions?
So Elena, so you think that, so based on other like past projects and like, do you think funding sources, that kind of stuff will show up through the grants, and that's just kind of the way it works?
Yeah, I'm hopeful. We have a really good connection with a funder right now who is super interested in this project, actually. And so I was hoping to hear by now, which I haven't yet. I imagine just things are slowed down. So if that doesn't work out, then we just continue to write grants until something works out. That's the world we live in. But yeah, I'm feeling hopeful that that one will work out for us, unless something really impacts their budget. But it sounds like they have a pot of money kind of just sitting there and nobody's tapping it. So hopefully.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think, yeah, some sort of, so the process would be, it would be kind of maybe more naturalize that area a little bit, like you said, with plantings. And then how does that affect like the maintenance on it, you know, right? Because if you're going to have somebody come in and excavate, like how does, I mean, that's what the engineers tell us, or how does that generally work? I guess I don't know on such a large project like that.
Yeah, so my understanding from what I have from the engineer, and I can't pull up the document, so I apologize to speak more clearly because my computer will freeze, but that it will require maintenance to clean up every so often, because otherwise the sediment will just keep filling up. So what we'll do is we'll work with you on an operation and maintenance plan and just develop that. And it sounds like, depending on how it's set up, one area will need more maintenance than the other, just for cleaning out that sediment. But otherwise, you know, the vegetation will take care of a lot of it, and a lot of it should be low maintenance is the goal.
Okay.
The only maintenance that we do there now is occasional mowing, weed whipping, and the scooping out of sediment that collects in that basin area. And that's the only type of maintenance I can foresee us doing in the future. So I suspect it'll be a bit of a negotiation between our staff that will be responsible for the maintenance and the engineers that'll be doing the project, to make sure that we are feeling comfortable that we'll actually be able to do what they think needs to be done.
Okay. And that'll be taken into account as they start to work through the designs, and once the engineer is able to come up and see the site.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question about that area that we're talking about specifically right now was also identified in one of the MnDOT land leases. And so Mike and I went down and talked in Duluth at the regional office there about each of those things. And it didn't sound to me like they were terribly concerned about us doing much work there. Other than their concern is their culvert that goes underneath the highway. So does that sound right? Are we can anticipate that doing a project like this isn't going to provoke the ire of MnDOT or anything like that?
No, I don't think it'll provoke their ire. As a matter of fact, I'm sure they'll appreciate what we're going to end up doing. But the reason that we didn't sign that easement initially was because we foresaw this type of project happening, and we were concerned about them having a permanent maintenance easement over half of the space that we're going to use for this treatment.
Right.
I think that as long as they get a chance to be a part of the planning process and see what we're doing, and they understand how the maintenance is going to get done, there won't be any issues with them.
Our office and our engineer have also been in touch with MnDOT, so they have the plans and they've been corresponding with MnDOT.
Cool. So does anyone else have any other questions for Elena on this? At this point, it sounds like we don't really need to do much. We could definitely, we could make a motion to approve the project. It seems like that's probably the only thing that we could do at present. And
I don't
Elena,
think you really need to, Jay. You know, Elena's kind of described what they're planning on doing, and as long as everybody's okay with that, then there's no action that's required.
that's kind of what I thought, but it was in the letter that she wrote in the packet, you know, it was requesting an approval of the project, you know, and a lot of times when we do approvals, it's a formal motion type thing. But unless somebody on the council has a reservation about the project moving forward, then we will just we'll nod our heads and let you get about your work, and I think that's awesome to be able to mitigate the stormwater as much as we can before it gets to Lake Superior. So anybody, everybody?
I'm just appreciative to see us clean up that area. It's a definite eyesore as you're coming into our community. And I also would imagine it's a hot bath for mosquito breeding grounds.
I'm sure it is, yeah. Cool. Well, then we'll leave it like that. I think that you've got our support, Elena. Keep us up to speed on any developments that happen, any additional grant monies that you secure, and we'll go with it on the plan or on the schedule that you identified with. So
Sounds good. Thank you. And also thank the council for the opportunity to use the outpost and to work through that opportunity as we work through that and use it as office space, because especially now, if anybody who's been in our office, we don't have really 6 feet barely for 4 of us. And
oh, totally.
Thank you for the opportunity. That money also that we're using for rent can be used as match. And so this is a good opportunity to be able to reflect that partnership. So thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a good evening.
Thanks.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. So the next thing on the agenda is a conversation about face coverings, which oh yeah, there we go. Who's all got them? Right there. Yeah, exactly. Just put your hand up. Yeah, there you go. Like half of us got it. So Patrick has, I don't know, Patrick, you said people can't hear you on the live stream or on the video, but you're the one who had the document or the idea for a draft of that.
Everyone in the office kind of collaborated on that.
We got
Okay. So you're going to share that on the screen, or you just want to read it, or how do we want to go?
I think we should just read it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I didn't pull that up. So
I can share it then. Just a second. Let me get that.
Did you email it out to us, right?
Yes.
Let me see if I can find.
Sounded fine.
What we sent out was 3 different options on Friday, with just slightly different texture to them and basis, just to give something to talk about. Do folks have them in front of them?
I do.
Yep. No,
I will say this. I appreciate you guys doing this.
I read it.
I would prefer not to use the second one. When the word sacrifice comes into it, I feel like that divides people. Like we're saying, when we're talking about mask coverings, people face coverings, people, if they aren't doing it, aren't sacrificing. And I don't want to be the person who defines that. I think that invites complications and feuds, so I would rather stay away from the second one. But that's my thoughts.
One. I just have one.
I like the third one.
The thing that I thought about all three of them was that, like, they're all statements, which is I think that they're built to be that way, instead of like an invitation, to people to like this. We encourage the community to participate in this practice, that kind of a thing. That's the only criticism that I have, or the only reservation I have about any of them. I personally, like the first one probably the best, or the third one the second best, and the middle one the least. So that would be how I would rate it. Anybody else have any thoughts?
Yeah, I think we should be making a stronger statement. These are pretty passive
I
statements,
just got one of them here.
and if what we're trying to do is encourage people to use face coverings, especially in those businesses where, and to be supporting businesses that are requiring face coverings, I just think we need to look at a little bit stronger language than just taking a very passive approach to this.
Is everyone seeing that now?
Jay, that just the language, the statement of encouraging people to use face coverings in those appropriate situations, to me makes a lot of sense.
Well, in the third statement, then could we change it? I guess I would be comfortable with if we did encourages adherence to the CDC recommendations to social distance where possible and wear cloth face coverings, period.
I would be totally fine with that. I mean, any one of those, I think gets the message across. I just agree with Tim, in saying that I would rather that we make a statement, that we make an actual statement about, about this is what we're expecting, this is what we're doing. That kind of thing.
The governor tonight, and he is encouraging people to do that as things are opening up. They are not requiring. So I'm not comfortable to tell people they have to if the governor of the state isn't.
Right.
So I'm happy with the encouraging piece, but I'm not going to make a directive that tells people they have to. If private business owners want to do that, to go into their stores, I think that's fine as well. We have a little bit of difference with some of the things we have going on, both at the campground and a municipal liquor store, that we have to make some decisions for. But I think private business owners should get to make that choice for their own business.
I would agree.
And right now, we really modeled all the statements after the type of policy that we're trying to enact with our own organization. And the third one in particular, where it says to social distance where possible and wear a face covering when not, is what we're doing. So if we took the when not out, it's not going to really be reflective of the city's current practice. We're not asking our city employees to always wear face covering. We're only asking them to wear a face covering when they're not able to socially distance.
Yeah,
and I think that's a good position to take. Because if business owners are making this decision on their own. I mean, it's the same as the city making a decision for its employees. I think we're all concerned about protecting employees, protecting the public. And after our meeting, our last meeting where we talked about this, I don't think any of us were wanting to mandate or put in some kind of requirement for face coverings. So we certainly didn't want to put ourselves in a position of enforcement, but to take a strong position, I think, about protecting employees and protecting the public and trying to minimize the impacts of spread of the virus seems to me what we're all trying to accomplish here, and just getting the language that reflects that, I think is worth some conversation.
If we went back to, then could we change it to strongly encourages?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think that gets the point across. I mean, I think, yeah.
Anton?
I think that, yeah, I kind of keep jumping back and forth between the three statements and like just what the CDC's language is on the guidelines, in which there's similarities for sure, but I feel like if it's, if it would be, I'm trying to think of how I can combine the two. I mean, I think some of that language is good, and I think encouraging is. I do agree with those that said it, that it should be, obviously not a mandate, but a encouragement, that we try and get people. And I think like part of the language that I like off the CDC site is that it kind of covers that in the third one, but even their language where it says in public settings when other social distancing measures are difficult to maintain.
Right.
Versus, especially in, like, and it even gives examples of, I mean, we don't have grocery stores, but pharmacies, gas stations, so, and then, I mean, and even to the point of, I mean, because the thing that I've noticed is you have to take it all with a grain of salt, I guess, because everybody has different beliefs on what's happening. But I don't think you have to either. I think we have to try and follow what the government is, what the federal government's saying. I mean, I think if they're saying that we don't want people to wear N95 masks because those are needed by healthcare professionals and people that are like, frontline workers, that, CDC guidelines say like a simple, inexpensive, homemade cloth, face covering is great, because I don't know if it's necessary to do the situation, but I almost feel like if it's worth putting language in there to clarify that, so that people feel like you're wearing one more so for everybody else, not because you're afraid of everybody else. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because the whole point of it is like you might be asymptomatic and have it, and like you're doing it as a show of like support for the community, versus like you're not doing it because you're afraid of everybody in the community. I don't know, maybe that just gets too political, but I think just like some sort of, something saying about the simple cloth, certainly not trying to encourage purchasing of N95 surgical or masks, but I don't know.
And maybe again, because I like the third one, using CDC recommendation, which I think is a good way to go. That means we're not defining it. Somebody who has a much higher power and a lot more invested in it, and I'll say smarter than us. But then also adding a sentence that we support our businesses to the measures steps that they will take to protect themselves and our community, and ask that others would follow and respect their parameters they're putting in place. Because as of the 18th, the governor is opening up small businesses, and there will be parameters and things that they're asking businesses to do. I think of Bucks right now, who I saw on WTIP. They're having a hard time getting people to follow their requirement. Someplace like, I don't know if or when, but maybe Ben Franklin would open up limiting numbers. And same thing, would Best Fudge Shop open up? Craig is already open with Marathon, and following what those businesses are putting in place, can we support those people? Because if somebody's going to require me to wear it in their business, I would follow that, because they're asking me to do it, and I would do that. So I would like to support those people who are doing that and encourage others to follow along.
I think that's maybe the difficult part of the language. Can somebody tell me what part of the third one that we wanted to kind of take out? Because I think a lot of that hits on those points, but I also agree with you, Kelly, that basically trying to show that we support what the businesses are doing to, however, I mean, they're deciding to be open. They don't have to be. I mean, they need to probably be able to survive. But if they are putting explicit directions in that we would, encourage the business, encourage people that are visiting the businesses to follow what rules they're putting in place. We're not saying we're putting them in place, but to at least appreciate and understand and try and comply, or not try, but do comply with what the businesses that are in our community are asking us to do.
Why don't we just use the third statement as is? We don't need to take anything out of it, and then add a third sentence to it that says, please respect each rules of each individual establishment, or something like that.
Yeah.
It's just an ask. It's encouragement, and it's an ask, and it says why. And
it's support from us that we encourage, or that we support what the businesses are asking.
Yeah, I would be in favor of that as well. I think that there's a lot to be said about making a simple, polite request of people. I've been talking to people who live down and have businesses down in Lutsen, and somebody went out and just like zip tied up a sign to one of the speed limit things that just said, please slow down. And they said that they were shocked at how much it slowed traffic down, because it just was a sign that just said, please slow down. If we make a statement like that, that just says like, please, or we encourage you to respect respect the practices at the local establishments, or something like that, as they've deemed fit for the protection of their employees, then I think that works. So if you guys are all okay with that, then we can just have language put in there that's to that effect, and then that'll be our statement. We can get that statement out. Does that?
I like that. I like that, Jay, and I really think the businesses would appreciate that level of support too, because each of the businesses is kind of hanging out there by themselves, and if they feel like there's at least some backing by the city, that think that sends a stronger message.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
Yeah.
Cool. Kelly, does that work for you?
Yep, I like that. I think it also works as we start to, open up the campground, that works there as well, if that's something
Good point.
towards there, or, in the liquor store, some of those things. So I'm fine with that we ask that people are respectful of our city businesses.
Cool. Well, then in that case, Mike and Patrick, we'll leave it up to you to just put a simple third sentence into that final statement there, or that third statement draft, and then we'll just assume that's our statement on this, and we'll get that sent out. So does that sound good?
Sounds good.
Cool. Well, thank you for that conversation. I do think that it's important for us to have those conversations, and to make sure that the businesses know that we're listening and that we're there. And also, I mean, it just makes sense for our businesses. Like, our businesses are small, and we've really got to do what we can to support each other. So I think that's really great. So you guys will take care of that. You guys meaning Mike and Patrick. And we'll move on to the next thing on the agenda, which is emergency status and updates. So does anybody have any updates for the council? I can say that the library has opened their pickup window, and it's kind of a rough start, just because they have to kind of bring things back into rotation, but it seems like it's working. So there'll be some fixing here and there as that becomes more efficient, but that's happening. So does anybody else have any other updates?
I don't have, is this like council and staff stuff too, or do you want to do that after?
Yeah, let's start with emergency stuff first, and then we can do council and staff a little bit later, I think that is a cleaner way of doing it.
Copy that.
I have a question more so kind of based upon what we did with the opening of the park. And I want to make sure that our intention was put forth correctly and directives are put forth. When we opened it to seasonals, we were going to ask people to quarantine. I know we were going to tell them to bring, groceries, pharmacies, supplies for 2 weeks. But are we actually requiring that those people cannot leave the campground to go to a grocery store the same way we do by calling in an order, emailing, and going to pick up in their car, having it dropped off, and that they are not to interact with people in the park? Is that our intention?
It was my interpretation of that was put in place to limit as much contact from those people coming into the community as possible. So interpretations of that, of course, are going to vary. That would be I think that'd be a question specifically for Dave for how that's going to be implemented. But maybe Mike, you have a thought about how that would be implemented logistically.
Well, Kelly, I think that how you're describing it is what we're asking people to do, but that's all we're doing is asking people to
We can't
prepare
enforce it
to
because
be on their own for 2 weeks. We don't have any intention of policing it with our own staff. I don't think it's feasible for us to do that. So we're going to have to require, we're going to have to rely on, I should say, a level of trust in each other to just behave appropriately and to take safe actions. And we think that that's safe actions, and that's what we're asking our guests to do. But that's all it is to ask.
So when a local is walking down there and talks to a person in their camper, obviously over 10 feet apart, they're told that they can't have a discussion. They can't sit and visit. The walker has to move on. I guess I'm not comfortable with, if I'm on the council and that's what I voted for, I'm not comfortable with that as my vote, or telling people that they, that somebody actually thought they could not leave the park. And that's not my intention either, because then I would say to someone, well, you go to Silver Bay to get groceries, or to Harbors or Duluth, and you come back, you need to now quarantine for 14 days. And we haven't made that encouragement. So I just wanted to follow up as to what the true directive is. And that person may have been confused. They didn't even know they were talking to a city councilor as they said some things happened to them. But I just wanted to make sure that what I voted for was not to confine people completely, that they have some of the same respects as our snowbirds who come back, still get groceries, probably still get gas in their car, but do as very little interaction as they possibly can, and stay to their area as much as they can.
I think what you're saying, Kelly, in a large way has to do with the interaction with the public and the expectation on the part of being in quarantine. If you're coming and really being in quarantine, you really need to eliminate that interaction with the public. And I think you could go to the grocery store and pick up your groceries, because the way that's done, you're not really interacting with the public. But I wouldn't expect that person is going to go to the post office or go to other places where the public will be there, and you could expect an interaction. So I would hope that the message would be clear that the quarantine requirements is that you don't interact with the public during that quarantine period. And yeah, there's a lot of people that are going down to Duluth and coming back, and are they quarantining? I kind of doubt it, but it's all in the issue of safety, whether it's safety of our employees, safety for the general public, the community. You know, I mean, we've been fortunate. We've been spared having any cases here so far, that at least that we're aware of, and certainly nothing serious. But that could all change, and if it changes, you know, are we prepared to deal with the consequences of that? So I think we need to be clear about our message, and I think the message is, if you're under quarantine, we expect you to not interact with the public for that period of time.
Yeah, and on that, I think that Tim got it there. What I interpret it as that we're providing people who move in with a method in a way that they can be 100% sure that they're not going to impact the community negatively, nor that will they be impacted by the community negatively. I don't view it as a prohibition of them going out and doing things. It's just you know, we need to start at some point for awareness that people should have for how to be responsible coming into a different community once they've been traveling. And I agree with you, Kelly, completely that, you know, if somebody takes a trip down to Duluth to get something or to go down for a medical appointment and they come back up, then shouldn't the clock restart on that too? But you know, that's a tricky thing. So,
well, I'm not making that direction that the clock has to restart, but I am not in favor of telling people if they come into the campground and they're especially over 10 feet apart, that they can't have a conversation. Hi, how was your winter? At the municipality, I kind of feel like we're then infringing upon somebody's, I don't want to say rights, but I feel like we're infringing upon them. Yes, I want them to be safe. I want them to do what's best for our community, but to tell them that they can't have a conversation, I feel like that's pushing the limit, and that's beyond my comfort level. So I'm just going to leave that out there, because then it's on public record. That is not what I would hope we would do. But as far as Tim said, like not going into a post office and some of those things, I understand that, and I'm in agreement. But again, to be out in the public, in fresh air, and be over 10 feet apart to have a conversation, an issue with that. But
yeah, I don't think that was the intention of.
It's what happened.
Well, that's somebody's interpretation of it. I don't think that was. I mean, perhaps I don't think it was a staff member of the park that told people that they had to keep moving. But maybe I'm misinterpreting what you said.
Maybe we should have this conversation offline, Kelly. I'd really like to hear a little bit more about it.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think the conversation we had at the park board and with Dave when we were dwelling on how to open the park up and get a slow start, get the full-time people that stay up here. It was kind of like, okay, how do we do this? And maybe we have to have some guidelines for the park. Well, now that a week has gone by now, and I see what I see happening in a very busy day to day in town, a lot of out of town people in Grand Marais today. Next week, we're going to have construction workers up here. And I'm hard pressed to see many people that come in here for the day or for visiting or whatever. They're not, you know, you start talking about quarantine people for 14 days. Well, it's kind of like, I think that was a guideline for the park. If we open it up, this is a guideline for the park. Obviously, we don't have that guideline for a lot of other things going on in town. And that is kind of different. There are people coming up, opening up their cabins. You know, we're not telling them to quarantine. There's a lot of there's people coming up here on business, staying in hotels right now. Are they quarantining for 14 days? No, they're not. But I think it was more of a guideline for the park to just get the park open and to let these people know, hey, if you come up here, we want you here, but this is a safe practice that we think is important for a park guideline. And, you know, I don't think we talked about, there was never anything said that you can't leave your camper, that you can't walk around or anything like that. I mean, we encourage going outside and doing that kind of thing. I think a lot of it just hovered around social contact with the public to keep that at a minimum for the first 2 weeks you're up here. So I think that was our intention of the park. I didn't get to read what the governor did today, so I don't know if restrictions got lifted on nightly camping yet. Did anybody read if it did or not? I don't know.
I believe. What's that?
Are campgrounds open? I don't know, but I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
I mean, we can be open now nightly if we wanted.
Nightly rentals can be open.
If we had a plan that we felt safe about keeping the bathrooms open 24/7, that's a prerequisite. Then we could.
Okay, that was my next question. I noticed that the city bathrooms aren't open yet, so I was going to try to bring that topic up to see at what point in time is the city ready to do that or not do that or have a plan for that. We will be busier here coming up in the next week, so I'm just kind of trying to prepare for that. But yeah, Kelly, I understand what you're saying, but the more I think about the self-quarantine thing at the park, it's like, okay, we're doing it at the park, but it's not happening anywhere else. You know, you can't force it. You can ask. It's a smart thing to do for them and for the people in the community, but you know, you can't, not everybody's doing it, so it's kind of hard to force it on everybody. You can't really force it on anybody. So I don't know. I just thought I think it was just a guideline, and Dave had a well thought out plan. And I think it was at the time when we voted on it, I think it was proper. Now maybe that's in a week, maybe that's changed. I don't know. I mean, that's something that the city council can talk about or the park board can talk about, but
yeah, I agree with Craig that it was not my interpretation that that would be a severe limitation on people's movements. So maybe where we can just leave that conversation is that the interpretation that we're pushing through right now is that we're not talking about a severe limit like that, you know, where you can't have conversations with people or you can't leave your campers or anything like that. It's just those are guidelines for protection that we're offering and encouraging people to participate, you know, in, or at least be aware of them as they go and do what business they need to do, that kind of a thing.
I think even the statement that we're going to put out tonight, I think like helps with that. You know, I mean, we know that there's going to be people that are coming up to do day trips. We know that there are going to be people coming up to stay. I mean, there already are. But I think like if we show support, that we support what choices the business owners are deciding to do for their own businesses, you know, I mean, then that's about the most we can do. You know, I mean, I've noticed it, you know, I mean, out of state license plates and people like, you know, one person per family, and just everybody in the car got out and went into the place all at the same time and just kind of like did the roll their eyes at the sign on the door, you know, and it's like, well, I think most people want to do what's best, right? Most people don't want to get sick. Most people don't want to spread this. I think we have to put some faith in like the people that want to come up here and keep, you know, make sure that Grand Marais is able to survive. And part of that is making sure our businesses function. One thing that I noticed in the governor's order is that it actually says that both private and public developed campgrounds remain closed to recreational camping. So Mike, what you were saying that we could be open for nightly, or
we've never been required to be closed. The type of use that people can put to is restricted, but that's not that's difficult for us to discern, right? It's just what's the purpose of our guests being here. So the simplest way for us to comply with the spirit of that is to just be open for seasonals only and not worry about the rest of it. And I think that's probably how we'll stay for the time being. But the park board will be meeting next week. That's their intention after the governor's updated order, and we'll have a few days to look it over and think about it, and then they'll get to talk about what the next steps might look like.
Okay, because I know Dave I think it was our last meeting when we talked about this, and he And is that maybe what you're getting at too? It has to do with our ability to keep our facilities like the bathhouses functional.
Right.
Yeah, if we're open for nightly, then we have to have bathhouses open 24/7.
In order to meet the state's code for being a camp, or the type of campground we are.
Yep.
Gotcha. And because we can't or haven't figured out what that is, which I'm not saying is a bad thing, but that's why we're not able to do nightly. Or what am I misunderstanding about what the governor's executive order is saying about that public and private recreational campgrounds can't be open?
Campgrounds have always been on the list of essential services, and I think as a housing residential type use, there's nothing that I don't think says that we couldn't be open next week, other than the spirit of the order is pretty clear that the types of customers we normally have aren't allowed to come here. So
okay.
For us being open, even if we think we could be, that it would only be encouraging people to break the stay-at-home order,
right,
in its eased state.
Okay, all right.
Fair enough. Well, let's do we have any other updates or any other emergency updates that we wanted to bring up? Seeing none. Then any updates for meetings? Should I just go through the list and we'll just see if everybody's got anything? Council and staff reports. Anton, you got anything?
Yeah, I got a few things. Well, one is that just somebody I was talking to, they were wondering about, we did, and I didn't remember, I think a couple of you maybe also got a call or drop in from this person, but wondering about the code update stuff, especially involving recreational vehicles and updating language in that. Wondering, obviously there's other stuff happening right now, but just wondering like where that's at. I know that we've had some updates, at least electronically, through the housing stuff that the planning commission's been working on, but I'm just wondering about the code stuff, if anybody has anything on that. If you do, I'll stop and then I'll go on if you do. Mike, Tim, anybody? It's just kind of in a holding pattern. So, I guess part of my question was, so basically the language as it's been since 1972, excuse me, is still the language. We haven't updated it to address those issues about side lot, rear lot, all of that business, right?
Well, that's going to be addressed as part of the zoning ordinance portion of the code update, which we're working on right now.
Okay.
And I'm expecting that, Mike, I don't know when we should be seeing that draft here. I would say soon, next week or two, maybe.
Yeah, Patrick and I spent some time today talking about it with Jeff, so we're expecting it by the end of next week. I don't think it's going to address what Anton's talking about, though. That code issue is related more to our need to have a work session to talk about the code issues that were on your last agenda.
Sure.
And the conversations that when we started getting into details about where campers can be parked, all those conversations, and my understanding is that you didn't want to continue them until we had a better idea about the code stuff, and you didn't want to do any changes to those languages, even though they weren't perfect and they weren't particularly easy to enforce in every spot, that we were going to stop working on changes on those things. So when we do a work session to talk about code update, and we're talking about code enforcement at that point, then we can review the types of issues that folks told us were important to them, and then you can decide if you want to change that language or not. In the meantime, it's currently city code.
Well, most of those issues were outside of the zoning ordinance and would just require some different type of conversations. So the zoning changes are going to have to do mostly with lot sizes, setbacks, and those things that might affect the issue of affordability in regard to affordable housing, dealing with it in that fashion. But it's not going to get into the kind of the nuts and bolts of all the different pieces of the zoning ordinance, other than those housing issues.
Yeah, and I guess I thought, and maybe I'm wrong, I thought that there was some sort of code recodification process that we had talked about, and then also the zoning. I thought that there were two separate things. No?
There are, and there's a third thing too, and neither of those two are the ones that are addressing the issue that you're talking about. So the housing issues are generally zoning ordinance, and that's what Tim was referring to.
Right.
Recodification is just a reorganization of the existing rules, but not a rewrite of the rules. Yeah. And then third one is what we talked about at your last meeting, which is the actual code update and trying to figure out what are the things that the community says are important to them that we ought to use the code to address. That's something that we're still working on, and the next step, as we discussed last meeting, was that we're going to try to do some kind of work session to talk about the results of that and then apply them to different places. And one of the steps in that will be to look at where our existing code has rules that address some of those issues, and those certainly will include rules about where trailers are parked.
Sure. Okay. That's mostly it. I was just trying to make sure that I was remembering correctly on that and where we were at with it. So
are we following the 1970 something ordinance then? Currently, that is what would be enforced until something new is written, correct?
Correct.
Well, when you're talking about the zoning ordinance, the original ordinance was in 1970 or 71, and there have been updates to that which have modified it. So, but the other portions of the city code outside of the zoning ordinance could be much older than 1970, or they could be more recent. So, based on whatever need there was at the time in creating particular ordinances. I think that's what you're asking about, Anton. All those other kind of side ordinances that haven't been addressed at all.
Well, and there's right, and I think the thing that I was, it's yeah. I mean, we had the meeting where we showed pictures of different houses and different things parked in front of them, and some that you'd think would actually not be would fit under the rules were just fine, but others, so it was more like the clarification of it. I mean, I cannot, we don't have to get into all that. But I just wanted to see we're working on it, right? We're working on it.
Yep, we're working on it.
Okay, so as it sits is how it sits until we can all get together and talk more.
Yep.
Okay. That's all about that. We've got a public hearing for the EDA coming up. We got 3 business park lots sales pending per public hearing, which is pretty awesome. And then we also have a hearing for the last 2 houses from the One Roof project over on the west side of town. Both of those have their purchase agreements on, so we have to do the final deal on that. So everything that's been built will have been sold once we can get through that, which is awesome. So that's good news. Selling business park lots is a good thing. And obviously workforce housing is also important. So it's nice that they're not hanging over the EDA's head or One Roof's head or in turn the city's head. So I think it's awesome. That's kind of my update for right now.
Cool. Thanks, Anton. Kelly, do you have anything?
Nothing from meetings because none of mine are taking place, but I do have a question, maybe request. I have had the opportunity to, this has come up, drive 4th Avenue West above 5th Street, behind Recycle in front of Little League Field. Last year, our guys were nice enough to go fill potholes. Obviously, that is a small fix for a very short term. And I'm a little concerned that the traffic on that is going to be increased now as we start to reroute things with the Highway 61 project. Obviously, there's now stoplights at 5th and 5th. I'm thinking some more locals would like to use 4th Avenue West. But with the shape the road is in, is there any way that we could do something about that? Can we talk with the county in conjunction? Anybody got any brainstorm thoughts? Because it's not good.
They won't want to use it very long after a couple trips. They'll go the long way.
That's the problem. Yeah. I actually talked with Lenny about that yesterday, and really, you know, where we're at right now is kind of a stalemate. We started making some progress with Kristen Foster with the county as a county engineer, but she's moved on, and now there's a new kind of temporary person in that position. So really, I think that what the city would like to do, if it's the will of the council, and if we can get an agreement, is that the city would like to take over responsibility for the maintenance of that road. But in order to do that, or in exchange for that, we would like the county to put some effort and some money into fixing it in the first place. So you know, that's something that you know, we've gone back and forth with the county about this for as long as I've been the mayor, and it's we haven't really gotten anywhere. Partially because there hasn't been a ton of stability in the engineer's office there, and partially because we don't really know how to work out that deal. But I do think that we need to keep powering through on that one too, because if the county is willing to do a resurface or do some kind of a maintenance, on that road to get it to a decent place, then I feel like the city could take it over and have it be something that we would maintain and keep it in as good a shape as possible.
What
Well,
kind go ahead, Kelly.
Sorry, even if the county would use their own gravel, crushed rock, whatever, to fill in the holes, we could cold or hot patch it or whatever it is for a while, and then maybe sending a letter to Rena and the commissioners. I mean, one of the things is, I know that the county board passed that you cannot go up beyond the hospital with trucks up to the Gunflint. You now have to go all the way down 5th Avenue to the current Gunflint Trail and go up that route. That was passed by the county commissioners. So sort of discussion with them or a letter to them to see if they're willing to help us with this road in the meantime until all the paperwork gets figured out as to who will take over and how it's signed over to us, if that's what we want. I think we need to make some sort of changes to that road for now.
I agree. I mean, I wonder, I mean, I feel like in conversations when we've talked about this in the past, Mike has said that if they were to hand that back to us, that it has to be put back to us in a certain condition. And my question is, and maybe Mike's already answered this, but you know, it seems like the mobilization costs and having those like mill and overlay type of situation, and maybe it's beyond that. Don't build paved roads, but those types of things in the relatively short term are going to be parked and hanging out and operating in the county. What happens if we say, do we have the authority to say, let's do this, we're going to do it, and then we'll take over responsibility, but then we'd have to probably negotiate or figure out what share of that cost would go back to the county. But I mean, can we do that? I mean, it seems like it would be foolish to like wait 2 years to try and hash something out and then get bids and then like, oh yeah, I mean, all this stuff that's happening right now. I mean, maybe 5th Avenue, you know, between now and next year, you know. I don't know. It seems like a pretty opportune time to take advantage of the activity that is happening elsewhere in town. But can we just send them a bill? Like, hey, we're taking it over, but
Yeah.
this is what it costs to get it back into, not like 55-mile-an-hour highway perfectness, but at least 15 miles an hour. Right now you can't drive 15 miles an hour on that road.
No, we can't send them a bill and expect them to pay it. We have an agreement in spirit with all the players. It's just that the players keep changing, and obviously the priorities, are not shared between the city and the county on how important an issue this is. And honestly, I'm not sure that they're clear even for us how important an issue it is. This isn't something that was on your priority list, but it's clearly something that is a priority to you. If you want to continue to use the strategy that we've been using, which is to try and work out a deal with the county to clarify ownership and to get it fixed, I don't know how to do that right now in a timely manner with the revolving door of players that have been up there. If you want a guaranteed fix, then throw money at it, and we'll have to hire our own engineer to do our own design to decide how to fix it, and then we can get these contractors who are around to get it done. We can certainly do that, but only if we're willing to take on the cost ourselves. Otherwise, we need to have the county be in agreement with us that this is important, and I think communicating with their board directly is probably a great idea. And also, anybody who's communicating with you directly, you might want to suggest they do the same.
What about assessing adjacent property owners? Because I'm pretty sure 90% of that property is owned by the county. I mean, doesn't that seem like a way we could get the county to pay for it?
You can put a short list of legal things that are not anything but adversarial together on ways to get the county to pay for it. There's no guarantee in any of them.
No, but I don't. Yeah. I mean, the county board certainly has an opportunity to change every 4 years, right? Just like city council does. But that doesn't make it go away. I mean, certainly the engineer aspect of it is important because then it can happen in-house versus the additional cost. But I don't know. I mean, I agree with Jay. Like we have, like, I feel like at our, like, I think I had beer with Tim when I first got elected, like 6 years ago. And I think we talked about that street, and then he explained like it's the county and trying to hand it back and all this stuff. And it's like, I don't know. I mean, it's a lot of
to draft a letter to all of them. I mean, I want to start moving this through, and I know we didn't put it as a priority, but it's a pain. And I've tried driving it twice now. It's horrible. And it's not like they're minimal potholes. I bet some of these potholes are 4 or 5 inches deep, if not more. I just want to do something. And if it takes me writing a letter to the commissioners to ask if we somehow meet to move forward on this in some way, shape, or form in a efficient manner that benefits our public, I'm willing to do that if I can.
Well, I think we should send a letter to the county administrator, at least to get this issue back on the table for conversation. And unless we do that, I mean, the county board is at this point obviously not doing that, and the county highway department isn't doing that. So I think we need to take whatever steps we need to get it back into some kind of a conversation to figure out if there's any way to take action on it. And I know last year when Lenny went out and patched the holes, I mean, it was patching the holes with gravel last 2 weeks. I mean, the heavy truck traffic that comes out of the recycling center. I mean, that road is just doesn't hold up to the kind of traffic that it experiences. So we need to have a conversation with the county. We need to let them know that it's an important issue for us, and we need them to be at the table to have this conversation. And maybe Mike Tardy is the right guy, because I mean, he fully understood that was a county road when he was the county engineer. So maybe this is to our advantage that we have an engineer that will actually take some ownership.
Well, I don't disagree that it's a good time to reintroduce that issue to the county with the new old county engineer coming back on. I do think that we should also keep in mind that any kind of motion on this is going to be completely dependent on the ability and the willingness of the county to move on, on maintenance or to participate with us in the conversation. So I don't think that it's asking too much for us to draft a letter to send to the county engineer that says, hey, we'd like to start this conversation. Here's a little background about the conversation we've had in the past. Just so that he knows that we intend to have that conversation. Understanding too that while we're in an emergency situation here, starting up a new project like that, we can do the conversation, and we can write an agreement with the county about like, okay, we'll take it all back over as long as you fix it up. Like that stuff doesn't take much of our staff time, but if it does turn out that it's going to be up to us to put together a project to redo that road, then I think that that's something we're going to have to wait on because we just don't have the bandwidth right now. But I mean, if everybody thinks that that's worth us sending a letter, then I mean, we just got to tell these guys to send a letter, and then we have to follow up to see like if there's a meeting time that's going to work for everybody. So I don't think it's a bad idea. I think that sending a letter and requesting a meeting is a pretty easy thing. So maybe that's where we start. Thoughts?
I would make a motion that we send a letter to the county administrator and county engineer to open up a conversation about making improvements to that 4th Avenue West.
As a motion, is there a second?
I'll second
I
it.
will.
Ooh, Anton beat you.
I think we all second that.
Third and fourth.
Okay, so any further discussion on that one? All right, so Anton, what's your vote?
Aye.
Kelly, what's your vote?
Aye.
Craig, what's your vote?
Aye.
Tim, what's your vote?
Aye.
My vote is aye as well. So then we'll move forward with that, and we will we'll bring updates to the meetings in the future. So great, thanks for that. Oh, we still need to keep going through. So I was at Kelly. Do you have anything else, Kelly?
No, I don't. And thank you, Mike. Sorry to add more to your plate. It just seems to be a good time and important. So.
Yeah, I don't mind.
All right, Craig, do you have any updates?
No, park board meeting coming up. I think for future discussion though, we should probably talk about that alley behind the Dairy Queen. Cause it's pretty poor right now. I mean, seriously, it's the only unpaved alley, I think, downtown Grand Marais. It's just like, if we're doing this highway project, like you say, it's an opportune time to tap into blacktop that's going to be around here for 2 years, so it might be a conversation in the future here in the next few months anyway. I don't know. It's not a whole lot of road there, but
right.
It
Well,
would
and
just
don't
help.
forget we have a local operation that does some of these things too. So
Correct.
that
Yes.
help them out.
I do know that. Yeah. No, I just, reason is I just drove through the pothole there a little while ago. So it's bad.
Yeah. I rode my
our roads. No, it's because of the winter and the weather, and those guys haven't got at it yet, but I'm sure they will. It's just, no, I don't have anything other than the park board meeting coming up, and then we'll probably be discussing what direction we're going here.
Okay.
So yeah.
Well, we'll hold our breath until we find that out.
Yep.
Tim, do you have any update?
No planning commission or PUC, but we did have an active living safe routes to school meeting last week, and we're real close on the safe routes, the new safe routes to school plan. I think we're waiting for ARDC to put some final touches on it. Unfortunately, a lot of the things that are in there are going to get put off for a little bit just because school situations right now. Of course, we canceled the bike safety rodeo, which is would have been usually, I think, would have been last week. We canceled the in-school bike safety training for the third graders. I don't know if we'll pick that up again next year, how that's going to work out. But yeah, the Safe Routes to Schools is a program. The plan is good, and I think we're all waiting for that to get finalized and start working on implementation. That's all I have.
Okay. Let's see what I've got. Yesterday was the monthly Ruby's Pantry. Allegedly, it was enormous, just absolutely huge. So that's both encouraging and kind of concerning. Thank goodness we have some food security in our area. But that's something that I've had some concerns about as well, knowing that our grocery stores just sometimes can't get the stuff that they need right now. So that's something that's on my head. I also went to or attended a Jamada meeting, the Grand Marais Area Tourism Association meeting this morning, and they were discussing all of the canceled events that are happening or that are not happening this year, and then also how that's going to impact the budget for Visit Cook County and for other operations around the city and the county. Some of those will have effects, will have negative effects to events and activities that we're very used to in Grand Marais, but we really don't know what those impacts are going to be quite yet. So that was just kind of a warning shot, a warning call out there to know that even if we go back to absolute normal on the 18th, which I don't think is possible, we're still going to feel repercussions throughout the rest of the year and probably in coming years as well for this. On the 11th, I attended a meeting. It's a very early stage meeting to discuss potential of an assisted living facility coming into town. I know that this sounds like, hey, we've had this conversation before, and we have, but this is a different group, and they're looking at doing a smaller, more targeted facility than what we talked about in the past. So that's very early in the situation, but something to be aware of. On last Thursday, the Creative Economy Collaborative had a meeting, and they're largely just trying to talk about how, if there are any opportunities for putting temporary public art up during the Highway 61 project, or to just do some things around town during the course of the summer, or in a case of a pandemic like this, to just bolster people's their spirits, to make sure that people are they're doing okay. So that's that. The library, like I said, they opened their window. We have a library board meeting in a few weeks, and then we're going to be talking about how that's going and working on budget. That's about it. So that's all I have. Does anybody else have anything? Mike, Kim, Patrick?
I have one thing. We haven't discussed it, but I just read it on Facebook today that I believe at the Lions Club meeting, was it last night? I think they canceled the Fisherman's Picnic.
They did cancel Fisherman's Picnic, yes.
Okay. I haven't talked to anybody to confirm it, but that's what I read. So.
Yep, they did. They did cancel.
I just thought I'd bring it up, and it's too bad that stuff like this is happening, but it's so.
Yeah, and the Lions Club also did make a request of Jamada for some financial assistance for 4th of July fireworks, and Jamada voted at the meeting to give that support. So we know we'll have fireworks on the 4th of July. So
Okay.
that's at least one thing. So,
We may have an influx of people. Duluth canceled theirs.
oh, funny.
Duluth postponed theirs, sorry, until Labor Day.
Oh, funny.
Um,
Well, there you go. Cool. So, anything else? Closing comments? Snide remarks? All right. Well, thank you so much. So this was actually our regular meeting. Next Wednesday will be one of the emergency meetings again, just for an emergency update. And I believe that's it. So it's Mike's birthday. Happy birthday, Mike! And we are
Yeah.
adjourned.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Good
Good night.
night. Happy birthday,
Thank
Mike.
you.
Bye.